कुंज विहारी गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जना यशोदानन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जना जमुनातीराचारी जमुनातीरा राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जना यशोदानन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जना यमुनातीराचारी यमुनातीराचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा माधव राधा माधव राधे जयो राधा रासबिहारी राधा रासबिहारी राधे जय गौरांगी बैंगलोरेश्वर गौरांगी जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा सुभद्रमाय जय सुदर्शन जय लक्ष्मीनारायण जय अनंत देव प्रहलाद सिंह जय अनंत देव जय निताय चैतन्य जय निताय चैतन्य जय निताय चैतन्य जय जय प्रभुपाद Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jai Gurudev, Gurudev, Dev Jaya Jai Gurudev, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Gaur Premanande, Hari Bol, Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Stotra Shata. His Divine Grace, Abhay Charana Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya, BBD founder Acharya, Savior of the whole universe, Jagat Guru Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Stotra Shata. His Divine Grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय, जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ, श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ, षट गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण चंद्र गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन गिरिराज महाराज की जय। मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय, मायापुर नवदीप धाम की जय, श्री क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय, द्वारिका धाम की जय, गंगा माई की जय, जमुना माई की जय, कावेरी माई की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, तुलसी महारानी की जय, समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories and glories and glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. So today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. Let me open the shloka for you. It's third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 25th chapter. And the shloka number is 24. Let me just share the screen as well with you so we can all see it. I hope this is visible. Okay, so Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tado Jayam Dirje Nastapraye Shubhadreshu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangulangaitim Krimi Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramanandam Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hari Om Tat Sat. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, text number 24. And the title of the chapter is The Glories of Devotional Service. Te te sadhu sadhava sadhvi sarva sangha vivarjita sangateshu athate prayartha sangadosha harahite. Te te sadhava sadhvi sarva sangha vivarjita sangateshu athate prayartya sangadosha harahiti. Te sadhava sadhvi sarva sangha vivarjita sangateshu athate pravartya sangadosha harahite. Te sadhva sadhvi sarva sangha vivarjita sangateshu athate prayatya sangadosha harihite. Word-to-word translation. Te, those very. Sadhava, devotees. Sadhavi, virtuous lady. Sarva, all. Sangha, attachment. Vivarjita, freed from. Sangha, attachment. Teshu, unto them. Atha, hence. Te, by you. Prayarthya, must be sought. Sangadosha, the pernicious effect of the material attachment. Araha, correct counteractions of, counteractors of. He, indeed, they. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation. O my mother, O virtuous lady, these are the qualities of great devotees who are free from all attachment. You must seek attachment to such holy men, for this counteracts the pernicious effect of material attachment. Purport. Kapila Muni therein advises his mother, Devahuti, that if she wants to be free from material attachment, she should increase her attachment for the sadhus or devotees who are completely freed from all material attachment. In Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, verse 5, it is stated, who is qualified to enter into the kingdom of Godhead. It is said that Nirmana Moha Chitasanga Dosha. This refers to one who's completely freed from the puffed up condition of material possessiveness. A person may be materially very rich, opulent, or respectable, but if at all he wants to transfer himself to the spiritual kingdom, back home, back to Godhead, then he has to be freed from the puffed up conditions of material possessiveness, because that is a false position. The word moha used here means the false understanding that one is rich or poor. In this material world, the conception that one is very rich or very poor, or any such consciousness in connection with material existence, is false, because this body itself is false or temporary. A pure soul who is prepared to be freed from the material entanglement must first of all free from the association of three modes of nature. Our consciousness at present moment is polluted because of association with the three modes of nature. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, the same principle is stated. It is advised, Jitasanga dosha, one should be freed from the contaminated association of three modes of material nature. Here also in Srimad Bhagavatam, this is confirmed. A pure devotee who is preparing to transfer himself to the spiritual kingdom is also freed from the association of three modes of material nature. We have to seek the association of such devotees. For this reason, we have begun the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. There are many mercantile, scientific, and other associations in human society to develop a particular type of education or consciousness. But there are no associations which help one to get free from all material association. If anyone has reached the stage where he must become free from this material contamination, then he has to seek the association of devotees, wherein Krishna consciousness is exclusively cultured. One can thereby become freed from all material association. Because a devotee is freed from all contaminated material association, he is not affected by the miseries of material existence. Even though he appears to be in the material world, he is not affected by the miseries of material world. How is it possible? There is a very good example of the activities of the cat. The cat carries her kitten in her mouth, and when she kills a rat, she also carries the booty in her mouth. Thus, both are carried in the mouth of a cat, but they are in different conditions. The kitten feels comfortable in the mouth of the mother, whereas the rat is carried in the mouth of the cat. The rat feels the blow of death. Similarly, those who are sadhava or devotees engaged in Krishna consciousness in the transcendental service of the Lord do not feel the contamination of material miseries, whereas those who are not devotees in the Krishna consciousness actually feel the miseries of material existence. One should therefore give up the association of materialistic persons to seek the association of persons engaged in Krishna consciousness. And by such association, he will benefit in spiritual advancement. By their words and instructions, he will be able to cut off this attachment to material existence. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to Canto 3 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 25, chapter titled The Glories of Devotional Service, and text number 24. Om Tatsat Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurod Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakamitamscha हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानु सुते देवी प्रणमामि हरि प्रिये वांछा कल्पतरोभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ते एते साधवा साध्वी सर्व संगा विवर्जिता संगा तेषु अथा ते प्रयत्या संग dosha harer hite. O mother, O virtuous lady, these are the qualities of a great devotee who are free from all attachment. You must seek attachment to such holy men, for this counteracts the pernicious effects of the material attachment. So we continue to read we continue our conversation on the 25th chapter, where Kapila Muni is talking about the glories of devotional service. And he's talking about this to his mother, Devahuti, who has been asking questions as to what devotional service is all about and how one becomes a devotee, and so on and so forth. Here, Lord Kapila is explaining to his mother the qualities of great devotees of the Lord. Sadhu is not judged by the external appearance. He is judged by the words. He is judged by the behavior. He is judged by the qualities that one carries. In Bhagavad Gita 4.13, very clearly says, Chaturvarnya Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasaha Tasya Kartanam Apimam Vidya Akartanam Avyayam. See, according to the three modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the four divisions of human society are created. And this is done by Krishna. And Krishna says, though I am the creator of the system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer, being unchangeable. Krishna does not make any reference to birth. Okay? Krishna is very clear, saying that this is on their material nature and work associated with them. Krishna is not talking, saying that if one is born in the Brahmana family, he becomes a Brahmana. No, that's not what Krishna is indicating. He's very straightforward, telling you that this is according to the modes of material nature and the work associated with that. So a Brahmana does not mean a person who's born in a Brahmana family and wearing a cross thread. In fact, to all our surprise, Ravana was also born in a Brahmana family. But it's such a curse to have such a person in a Brahmana family like Ravana. Yeah. So Brahmana is not identified by just the birth or just by the ceremony of cross thread or, Upanayanam. It is actually the same in the other varnas and ashramas. They are judged according to the quality of work that they do. And we see that this grahastha as a position is an exalted position. And the difference between grahastha and grahamedi needs to be understood. Grahastha is a person who follows his regulative principles, who follows the shastras, and who does everything to ensure that his family is becoming Krishna conscious. Grahamedi is a person who is only entering or getting married just to enjoy the material consumption of or material conception of life in a married life. So, sannyasis are not men just taking vows. Sadhu does not mean that there's somebody with, matted hairs, and somebody who wears saffron or who shave their head. No, to be a sadhu, he's the one who's constantly speaking of the glories of Krishna. Sadhu is one who controls the senses and uses them in the service of Krishna. So he's a person who's called a sadhu. Now, just in about 3 verses prior to this was the quality described of, or the symptoms of the sadhu. Titikshava, Karunika, Surhadava, Sarvadehina, Ajata Shatrava, Shanta, Sadhava, Sadhubhushana. So the qualities of a sadhu is that he's tolerant, he's merciful, and he's friendly to all living entities. He has no enemies at all. No, he doesn't fight with anybody. He's very, very peaceful. He abides by the scriptures, and all these are the characteristics which are sublime. Yeah. So he's constantly, the qualities that we see, he's constantly speaking about the glories of the holy name or glorification of Krishna. Now, when we look at it, there are 3 modes of material nature. These 3 modes of material nature are Rajoguna, Tamoguna, and Satoguna. So when somebody is, intoxicating or, sleeping more than what is supposed to be required, that person is known as being in mode of Tamoguna. He is in Tamoguna. Then there are people who think of their prestige, who talk about their sense gratification, who are always worried about their bodily, features or decorating body, or they are behind acquiring name and fame. These people are called to be in Rajoguna. Likewise, there are people in Satoguna also, those people who are associated with philanthropy, those who are associated with charitable work, or they're doing some classical work, so on and so forth. So we see that these 3 modes of material nature are present in a human body in different states or in different combinations. And when they are made available in a human body, that is the way that that person behaves with the other people. And from Sattva Guna, we see that one can transcend the material nature. But then that is very, very important that one needs to grow over the Sattva Guna. Sattva Guna is just now not good enough. One needs to transcend from there to Shuddha Sattva. And then only one can really get liberated from the material world. And in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text number 5, it is talking about who a sadhu is. Nirmana moha chita sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivirakta kama dvandair vimukta sukha dukha samjene gachanti amuda padam avyaya tat. Those who are free from false prestige, nirmala moha. Nirmana moha. So sadhu is a person who is free from false prestige. He is free from illusion. And he is also away from the false association. Apart from this, sadhu is a person who understands the eternal. He knows that this body is temporary and the soul is eternal. Who understands this very well, and who's done, who's over and above the material lust. Sadhu is a person who's free from the dualities of happiness and distress. Be it happiness or distress, he is very, very much stable in whatever his thought is and in whatever he is doing. And sadhu is a person who is unbewildered, and he knows how to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead to attain the eternal kingdom. So it is very clearly given here who is a sadhu. So all these qualities should be there in a sadhu. And Krishna himself is giving us the guidelines as to how one can go back to Godhead. So in this shloka, Kapila is telling his mother to be free from all material attachments. If we do not free from the material attachment, then we are going to suffer from Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. Yeah, if we are getting over these 4 parts of the suffering, that is Janma is also painful. Mrityu is definitely painful. Jara is the disease that we have, in Vyadhi, the tensions that we have. So if one is over and above all this, then he is actually a liberated soul. So in Bhagavad Gita 8.16, very clearly Krishna describes Abrahma bhuvana loka punaravartiti Arjuna mamupetyatu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. Here Krishna very clearly says that Abrahma bhuvana loka, in this world of material creation, upon the highest abode of Brahma, also you are subjected to birth and death. But Arjuna, here Krishna is telling, but if somebody attains my abode, there is no further rebirth. Even if somebody stays in Brahma Loka, he has to take rebirth. But if somebody goes to Krishna Loka, he did not take rebirth again. So this is confirmed by Krishna himself. He is speaking about this directly to Arjuna. And see, as long as we think that this material world is a place of enjoyment, it is actually not a place of enjoyment. It is actually a place of misery. But so long as we think that this material world is a place of enjoyment, we will never be able to go back home, back to Godhead. We are only trying to decorate our jail. It is actually a jail in which it's a prison house. And we are trying to paint our prison house with nice colors. We are trying to paint the gate of our prison house with golden, colors, which is not going to help us, because one day we have to leave this jail and go. We are not permanent sources here, and who likes to be in jail? So we need to understand that we are not supposed to be living in the jail all our life. We have to get out of this place and go back home, back to Godhead. And as long as we live with this assumption that we are the body, we have to suffer. And if we see the nature of soul is always happiness. So it is unnatural for the soul to suffer. So as far as we talk about, or we assume that we are this body, we will continue to suffer. And that is not the nature of the soul. That is only the nature of the body. And in order to become detached, the process is to attach to a sadhu. Yeah? If you want to detach from this material world, you need to have some other attachment. And that attachment to be taken as for sadhu. And to give up the propensity, to completely give up the propensity to give the material world and material possession. So one has to give up all the propensities to live in the material world and the material possessions that we all have. The nature of the mind, senses, and the soul is to be attached to Krishna. Mind, senses, and soul. It's the natural tendency to be attached to the Lord. Once we give up the attachment to material things, means we are attaching ourselves to Krishna. And that's the best thing that can happen to a person. There's a very nice story in Chaitanya Charitamrita which says how one can attain the perfection of life. One can attain perfection of life only if he attaches himself to devotees. So there was a very nice story, a very great devotee during Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time. His name was Shivananda Sen. And for Shivananda Sen, the only life goal was that he wanted to serve the devotees, because he knew that if he serves the devotee, if he is attached to the devotee, he will attain Golok Vrindavan. He will go back home, back to Vrindavan, Golok Vrindavan. So Shivananda Sen, he was among the best of the devotees of the Lord. And the one who's the best servant of the pure devotee is the best devotee of the Lord. Yeah, the understanding has to be very clear. That if one wants to be the best devotee of the Lord, he has to be the best servant of the devotees of the Lord. Then he can become the best of the devotees. So the Shivananda Sen, every year he would take yatra. He would take devotees from Bengal to Jagannath Puri. And it used to be a very big group that, of people who would go along with Shivananda Sen. And Shivananda Sen would make all the arrangements for all these devotees who are traveling, including their travel, including their stay, including their prashadam, including their payment of toll, including their sponsorship. There was nothing that Shivananda Sen would leave to chance. And Shivananda Sen would ensure that every devotee is so comfortable that he never has a complaint. and he takes the darshan of the Lord very nicely. Because if the devotee is comfortable, then he will be very much pleased to see the Lord. When one has a complaint, one has, all the kinds of complaints against the management for organizing certain yatras, he will never be happy and he will never peacefully have darshan of the Lord there. Or his mind will always be thinking about, the shortcomings all in the yatra. So Shivananda Sen ensured that, there was absolutely no shortcomings when he was taking the yatras. There's one day when they were traveling, there was a dog who actually started walking with the devotees. And he started coming to the camp where the devotees were staying. So Shivananda Sen was not only looking at human beings, he was also looking at this dog as a devotee. He would nicely feed prasadam to this dog. And, the dog walked all the way with Shivananda Sen in the yatra. And at one point, they had to cross the river. So when they had to cross the river, everybody got into the boat, and Shivananda Sen was also getting into the boat, and he was wanting also the dog to come into the boat. But the boatman said, no, I will not allow a dog to board my boat. Shivananda said, no, this is not a dog. This is the devotee of the Lord. So you look at the vision that Shivananda Sen had. Shivananda Sen was always thinking that everybody is the devotee of the Lord, and he was serving everybody as their servant. But the boatman refused. And when the boatman refused, Shivananda Sen said, I will also not travel by your boat. I do not want to travel because if you're not taking this dog along with him. So the boatman got really bewildered. And Shivananda Sen was very firm in his thought. But then as he turned around, he could not see the dog anywhere. The dog had vanished from there. And Shivananda Sen was, thinking about it. Oh, I committed an offense. How do I do it? I should have taken the dog along with me. And he doesn't find the dog. So then Shivananda Sen continues to travel with the devotees. And when they reach Jagannath Puri, they see that this dog that was present with Shivananda Sen in the yatra all through from Bengal was sitting right next to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was patting him. So this was a test that this dog has also gone back home, back to Godhead. That is because of the association of these sadhus. Yeah. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, he said there's only one formula. He says, who's a real sadhu? When some saintly person comes to meet you, yes, when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj would have some saintly person come and meet him, and he will ask him, are you a devotee of Krishna? And if that person, that saintly person says, yes, I'm a devotee of Krishna, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur will never speak to him. But if a person says, I'm a devotee of Krishna, then he would spend the whole day with that person. So please understand the difference that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj is trying to teach us, saying that the real sadhu is a person who doesn't say, I'm a devotee of the Lord. He says, I'm a devotee of Lord. Yeah. So that is how one needs to identify. There are many people, so-called pseudo-devotees these days. They try to allure us by, their magical activities. But then that's not what we really have to look at. We have to look at a devotee who's a devotee of another devotee. Who's a devotee of the Lord? Yeah, he is the true sadhu. The greatest devotees are the devotees of the devotees. It's a very, simple statement. The greatest devotees are the devotees of the devotees. If we go back to another story, Dhruva Maharaj was asked, saying that ask for any benediction that you want to have. So Dhruva Maharaj says, let me become a servant of Lord Hari. He didn't want to become a devotee. He didn't say, I'm the greatest of the devotee, or I want to become a devotee. So he also said that, let me become a servant of Lord Hari. And those who understand the essence of the Vedas actually want to become dogs and get attached to the great devotees. Like how this dog got attached to Shivananda Sen and he was liberated. Likewise, those who understand the essence of the Vedas really want to become dogs. And when we say dog, please understand D-O-G. What is a D-O-G? Devotee of God. Yeah, and they want to become devotee of God, and they want to get attached to great devotees. So Lord Kapila is explaining us that those who are attached to serving the devotees become the biggest of the devotees of Lord. As the devotees are very dear to the Lord, the only reason that you become very dear to the Lord because the devotees are very dear to the Lord, and hence the Lord becomes very attached to us. Srila Prabhupada once asked that what is the goal of a sadhu? The only goal of a sadhu is to get everybody to the lotus feet of the Lord. If we don't accept the words of sadhu, we need to understand that we are contaminated. Sometimes when we are sitting and hearing, katha from a sadhu, and we are not able to understand it or we are not able to accept the words, then it is our kalmasha, it is our contamination which is there. That is the reason that we are not able to understand the holy name or, the Shastras and the Vedas and Puranas and all of that. Also, the only duty, or as I said, only goal of a sadhu is to get everybody to the lotus feet of Lord. There's another very nice description that we understand. There was a wonderful Brahmana who was always worshipping Lord Shiva. And this Brahmana was not very rich Brahmana, but he was always worshipping Lord Shiva. And then, when Lord Shiva appeared, he said, ask me for a boon. So he said, I want the best thing possible on Bhuloka. So Lord Shiva understood his mind and he says, see, I don't have the best of the things. It is available with a devotee called Sanatana Goswami. And he lives in this land of Vrindavan. You can go and ask him, you can go and tell him that you want the best thing on earth. And he wanted to, the Brahmana basically wanted, when he said best of the things, he wanted to be very, very rich. So he said, I want the best riches of this world. So he says, go to Sanatana Goswami and ask him, he will give it to you. So this man goes to Sanatana Goswami and says that, I have been asked by Lord Shiva to come and meet you and I want the best riches of the world. So Sanatana Goswami says, oh, you want the best riches of the world? Fine. See, there's a dustbin there. On top of the dustbin, there it is kept. So there he finds a big diamond and takes it. So this Brahmana is very happy. He's actually taking that and going saying that, I'm the richest man on earth. I've got the best of the riches of this earth. But then something strikes him on the way saying that, hey, look, if Sanatana Goswami thought that this is the best riches, why did he give it to me? And on top of it, if this was the best of the riches, why did he keep it near the dustbin? I'm sure, he's not telling me the truth. He has something better than this. So the Brahmana goes back to Sanatana Goswami and says, oh, Sadhu, I understand. You have something better than this. That is the reason you've given it to me. So he says, yes, definitely. I have the best of the riches possible with me. But for that, what you'll have to do is, you'll have to go and throw this in Ganga. Or in those days, he was in Vrindavan, so Jamuna. So go and throw it. So the Brahmana, readily agrees, saying that, I'll get something better than this. So he takes this diamond and throws it in Jamuna and comes back to Sanatana Goswami. And then Sanatana Goswami there gives him the holy name of the Lord. So the understanding is that a sadhu is always very, very compassionate towards the devotees and they give them the best that is possible for them to do. This is very nice. Another learning that we have from the story of Haridas Thakur and the prostitute. This prostitute was sent by the local mercantile man to contaminate Haridas Thakur. But Haridas Thakur, being a great devotee of the Lord, he would always chant the holy name of the Lord 24 hours a day. And if we notice Haridas Thakur, while he was chanting, he would never even get sleep. He would hardly eat anything. He would hardly take rest. And he would continuously chant the holy name of the Lord. It used to be 64, 64, 64, 3 times in a day. And Haridas Thakur would chant this. Now, when the prostitute came, he did not even focus on that. So the understanding from this story one needs to learn is saying that there are times that a lot of allurement will come to us. There are a lot of things or the material nature will come to us. Maya will come and attack us. But we should not get deviated from our path. Haridas Thakur never got deviated. This prostitute was a beautiful lady. She was sent, she tried alluring him, but he said, no, sit down, you chant with me. Let me complete my rounds and you also chant with me. And this prostitute at a later date becomes a wonderful Vaishnavi, and she has been worshipped in our parampara. So the thought of, or the goal of a sadhu is to get everybody to the lotus feet of the Lord. The prostitute did not have any inclination towards the holy name, but because of the mercy of the sadhu like Haridas Thakur, she was brought into contact with the Harinam and she became a greatest of the devotee. And as we discussed earlier, three modes of material nature, Rajoguna, Tamoguna, and Sattva-guna. Rajoguna and Tamoguna are very, very dangerous. Lusty desires, greediness is what one needs to overcome. So Rajoguna and Tamoguna are two things that one needs to overcome. Contamination of Tamo is very, very prominent. And Rajoguna also, the contamination is very prominent. But in Sattva-guna, the contamination is practically nil. The aim of life should be to become free from all these contaminations. Even Sattva-guna, we have to even raise above Sattva-guna. In Bhagavad Gita 14th chapter, it is explained very nicely how to disinfect ourselves or how to get uncontaminated. And the only answer they are given is association of sadhus. We will have some attachment to material modes of nature, and that is the cause of our bondage. And if we want to free from this bondage, then we should transfer the same attachment to a sadhu. Take this attachment that we have towards the material life, material possessions, and have that attachment transferred to a sadhu. And everybody wants some kind of an attachment. It's just that we have to dovetail that attachment that we have towards the material world to get into a sadhu. Even the Buddha philosophy that we see makes attachment. Buddha philosophy says that make the attachment zero. But it is not possible. Shunya is not possible. No human being can live without attachment. So the Lord says, Param Drishtva Nivartate. Gradually the attachment should be transferred. Like, you have a child studying in the school. The child is always fond of playing. Now, if you tell the child that you stop playing and sit at one place, he will not do that. Slowly, you should give him the school, you should give him the education, you should give him some fun in his education. That is how he gradually gets the attachment towards education. You should allow him to play a little bit. If you tell him to sit down, he will never sit down. Srila Prabhupada, in one of the lectures, said the Westerners are so accustomed to meat eating, they could not give it. But they could give it only with one reason, that I started making and serving them kachoris and rasgullas and chapatis and puris and all of that. So Srila Prabhupada made the statement saying that if we give something more palatable, detachment is possible. So we have to nullify the material attachment and give a better attachment. Then people will get attached to it and they will follow, or they'll take it up very seriously. Our consciousness is contaminated and slowly it needs to be purified. You can't purify your consciousness just over one night. We have to start chanting the holy name of the Lord. Once we start chanting the holy name, then take up the other processes of bhakti, reading Srila Prabhupada's books, fasting on auspicious days, doing deity seva. And all these things slowly take us to purification, and slowly it needs to be diverted towards Krishna. And the only process is, how do we do this? It is only through sadhu sangha. We cannot make our attachment zero like the Buddha philosophy. We can pluck our eyes. Can we pluck our eyes for the disease that we have in our eyes? No, you can't. We need to cure the disease. If we put some ointment, then the disease will go out. Just because there is some disease in the eyes, you can't remove the eyes. We all have kama, krodha, matsalya, moha, and this all needs to be diverted, and this needs to be dovetailed in the service of Krishna. Our attachment is to earn money. Yeah, we see many devotees who feel that, the attachment is towards money and earning money in business. Krishna says that you can do business and give me the results. Yeah, very nicely in Bhagavad Gita 9.27, he says, Yad karoshi yazatnashi, yad jujoshi dadashi, yad Yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurusva madarpanam. He says, O son of Kurti, Arjuna, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, always all the austerities that you perform should be done as an offering to me. So we have to only dovetail. If we are doing business for earning money, just give the results to Krishna. Krishna will be very happy. And at the same time, we are also purified by, this additional attachment that we have towards Krishna, of offering him whatever we are doing. He does not say that do something in particular. He says, try to give whatever you do. Earn the business and spend in Krishna consciousness. That is also bhakti. Whatever money we are earning in business or in our profession, if we spend it for Krishna conscious activities, donating to the temple, sponsoring prasadam, going for yatras, giving it to devotees for spreading the holy name of the Lord, these are all things that we can do. At the same time, in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is a fighter that we see. But he still became a devotee. How did he become a devotee? Not by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. He became a devotee of the Lord by fighting the battle, because Krishna said, you fight. By executing your occupational duty, you worship Krishna and perfect your eyes. So the whole idea of this conversation, or there's one more point Srila Prabhupada made, he gave an example of smokers, those who smokes bidi and cigar and all of that. They cannot be without smoking for a long time. And likewise, they will start choking. They'll look for something. They'll look for, going out and smoking. Likewise, human beings also should hanker to get sadhu sangha. We should never leave an opportunity to have sadhu sangha. Whenever there are, senior devotees who are visiting, there are live classes which are going in by senior devotees or Vaishnavas. We should never miss this opportunity. Rupa Goswami in Nectar of Devotion says, Adav Shraddha Tatho Sadhu Sangha Tatha Bhajana Kriya. Bhajana Kriya is that one should become anxious. The effect of Sadhu Sangha is that one should become anxious. And how to execute his devotional service properly. That is called bhakti. It's like that, we have to give up something in the beginning, 4 regulative principles, becoming tolerant, and then become cured from certain disease. Like, if you have to get cured from a disease, you need to undergo a surgical operation. And the surgical operation is painful. But then what it does to you, when you go through the surgical operation, it gives you a long-term relief. So that is very, very important. And especially Srila Prabhupada says that those who are preachers are better sadhus than the sadhus who go to Himalayas. The sadhus who go to Himalayas are going for their personal interest, saying that there is nobody to disturb there. They don't have to, deviate their mind. But on the other side, Srila Prabhupada says those who are preachers, they are better sadhus. And they are actually fighting for Krishna's sake. Krishna wants this material world to be free. And he wants everybody to go back home, back to Godhead. And if a devotee makes that efforts to take people back home, back to Godhead, then his life is purified. Those who preach face some difficulties. And if you want to become, quickly under the recognition of Krishna, then one should become a preacher. That is the best service that you can think of in this society. And our mission is that if we can create sadhus and distribute all over the world, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Prithvi te ache nagaradi gram sarvatra prachar hoive murana. So devotees have to go far and out and preach to people and give this holy name, and they become sadhus. And once people get association of sadhus, then they realize the real goal of life. The real goal of life is to go back home, back to Godhead. And that's how they will take it off. So I think we are coming closer to our timing. I will complete my discussion on this. And if you have any questions or comments, I'll be happy to take them. The understanding is very clearly, I will summarize. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Otherwise, I'll summarize what we discussed today for the benefit of all of us. Any questions or comments by devotees? Okay, so I'll just quickly summarize what we discussed. So in the shloka, very clearly, Kapila Muni tells his mother that she should seek attachment to holy men because they are the only ones who can counteract the pernicious effects of the material attachment. And as we discussed, as we saw the other things, there are three modes of material nature, and that is because of the work associated with them. And Brahmana is not to be identified by just taking a birth in a Brahman family, and likewise, it is in the other Varnas as well. Just because one is born in a mercantile family doesn't mean that he's a Vaishya. Depends on the quality. Then we also discussed the difference between a Grahastha and the Grahamedi. And who's a sadhu? Sadhu is not just a person who takes the vow, or sadhu is not somebody who actually has matted hair or wears saffrons or has a shaved head. Who is a sadhu? Sadhu is a person who's constantly speaking about the glories of Krishna. And sadhu is one who controls the senses and uses them in the service of Krishna. So that's the quality of a sadhu. Then we have to also get over and above the three modes of material nature, that is tamoguna, rajoguna, and sattva-guna. And we should get out of this false prestige, illusion, and false association that we have. And Kapila Muni is also telling his mother to be free from all this attachment of the material world. And if somebody has the attachment, they will continue to suffer with Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. And then we also read about, or we discussed about, the highest of the abode of Brahma. You will still be subjected to rebirth. But if somebody goes back home, back to Godhead, to the abode of Krishna, he has no rebirth. This is what is confirmed by Krishna himself in chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita on the 16th shloka. And as long as one thinks that is in the material world and this place is to enjoy, that means he's only decorating his jail, which is not a good thing. And the greatest of the devotees are the devotees who are devotees of another devotee. Yeah, nobody says. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said this, saying that if somebody says that I'm a devotee of Krishna, he would never spend time with him. He would spend a lot of time with those people who say I'm a devotee of Krishna. Yeah, so we should all become devotees of Krishna and not devotees of Krishna directly. So in short, we should follow the Guru Parampara. And the goal of sadhu is to get everybody to the lotus feet of the Lord. And also, we heard the example of Prahlad Maharaj. He said, no, I want to become a devotee of Lord Hari. So we will end our conversation here. A very nice shloka, very nice understanding, where it says that, we have to take association of the sadhus. At the same time, at the end, Srila Prabhupada, in the conversation that we had, he said, Srila Prabhupada says everybody has to become preacher. A preacher is better than a sadhu who goes to Himalayas. So it is the responsibility of a devotee to make others understand about the holy name of the Lord, make people understand about the glories of the Lord and make them devotees. So we will close our discussion on this shloka today. Thank you very much for joining and thank you for your patient hearing. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Gaur.
ಇದು ನಂದು